All right. Man, welcome back to the Dad Style Podcast. It's been a long time, but I'm excited for many, many reasons today. One is particularly the first ever guest that I've had. I'm excited about this dude jumping on, so I appreciate you very much. And something I'm trying new is streaming live on Facebook, which is a little nerve-wracking, but hey, we'll see what happens.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah, so Craig, thank you so much for jumping on. Man, I owe you a lot for one for this podcast because when it first started, it was the evolution of dad style. So you gave me like that inspiration to kind of like get it started and get it going. And man, I changed it to now the dad style podcast because I wanted to like align with some of the stuff I have. But I mean, it allowed me to like just kind of like dig deep and talking about evolving, just thinking back of, everything back in the day and how my journey was and sharing that journey like in the first few episodes of the podcast was I think important and special to me to do that. And now that I guess we're going now, just continuing after so long of recording an episode, I thought it was right to have you first as my guest. Um, so man, thank you so much for joining.
Hey, I'm honored to be the first guest and honored to be on the show, man. Really proud to see you pick it up. I mean, if you remember, me dropping you off at the airport after Dad 2.0, that was when I got the inspiration to start my own podcast, which I've also taken a break on for like the last year. But it was good to return the favor, man, for sure. And yeah, it's an honor to be on, and I love seeing what you're doing. It's good for you to get your story out. I love hearing it.
Appreciate you, man. Man, so being that I have you on and like we've connected so much in Dad 2.0, and which for everyone who doesn't know, it's a dad conference that we went to about what, 2, 3 years ago,
It
3 years ago,
was,
maybe.
gosh, it was, I think it was a little over four. It was like four because it was right before COVID, so 2020.
Hmm.
Yeah, and it was right around this time. It was like a week or two after us talking now. So yeah, it's been about 4 years.
Yeah. So yeah, the conference was awesome. I mean, just all dads and all kinds of networking connections and just learning so much about yourself just in the process. So it was kind of cool to meet, you and so many others there. But um yeah, I mean, just being here in this space and connecting with you and having you jump on, and us sharing really like similar backgrounds with, being a single dad, going through a divorce and just trying to figure it out, how to be a dad to like to a girl, is a challenge.
Yes.
For one, just not even knowing what that's like. I know for me it was like, okay, I'm a dad to a daughter, single dad. How does this work? Where's the manual, But I mean, in parenting, there's no manual. I mean, every kid is different. Every parenting story is different. The struggles and the journey that everybody goes through is so different. So, um, yeah, it was a challenge, but it was one that I needed to figure out. And I like to like, dive in a little bit, just kind of sharing both different backgrounds, from my perspective, your perspective, and just kind of see so that, any other dads that are out there, single dads particularly, who are just starting that journey, like you're not alone. Like we got your back. That's what we're here for. Just want to give a big shout out to Sergio, who is Soy Super Papa, who just said what's up to
Oh, tell him I said what's
us.
up. I haven't talked to that guy in
Yeah,
forever.
I know it's been a while. So Sergio, what's up? Big shout out. So anyway, so man, from my perspective, after divorce, my daughter was, and I think it was almost similar age too of when we went through our divorce, but my daughter was about 3 going on 4, and which was a challenging age because they didn't understand exactly what was going on. It was tough because she's like, okay, why am I going to 2 different places? Like I don't get it. Like why can't you and mommy and stay together? Like what's the problem? She didn't understand it. So that was a challenge. But and then just trying to figure out how to be a dad, you know, at home by myself with a girl and just trying to figure all that stuff out. My biggest challenge was brushing her hair. That was the biggest challenge for me and trying to figure out how I can maintain her hair and and just learn all these different things. And of course, you hear so many stories and you get tips and advice from all different corners. But I think where I found it to be most useful is I just needed to do the research and homework myself so that I can learn it my way and and for what my daughter needs. Because all parents, all kids are different. You go through different stuff. So that was my biggest challenge is just trying to figure out with her hair because she doesn't want to cut her hair. So it's like she's like the Hispanic Rapunzel. Um, so to maintain that was a little bit intimidating. But I think that was my biggest challenge. And then, just everything that she's gonna go through, just preparing myself, doing the homework and learning um what I needed to do so when as she starts growing, I can be there for her and support her in ways that normally her mom or a woman would. And just to be able to hold my own, now she still, of course, has the support from her mom as well. But just being able to do that for myself and be more independent that way, I think was what helped me get over those early challenges and like the start of single fatherhood life. So I mean, same question for you. Like, how was that journey starting for you?
So for me, it was a little bit different. My daughter was younger. She was only about a year and a half. So I think she was barely really speaking. And we talk about it now, and she's like, I don't remember a time when you and mom were together. Like I see pictures of you guys and
Hmm.
me as a baby, but I don't remember any of that. So I mean, honestly, it's really all she's ever known. So for her, starting out life like that, the back and forth of the custody was not a big problem for her because she'd been doing it her whole life. I think
Yeah.
the biggest challenge for me was just like I've got this 1.5-year-old daughter and it's my week or my weekend. Like, what the hell do I do with her? She's not old enough to watch TV, and I don't want to drop her off in front of the TV. So it's like, do I really just get down and play? Like, is that all I really have to do? And sure enough, that was it. So we'd always hit up the playground or the park when the weather was nice. I'd push her around. She had this you probably seen them, like it's a little buggy looking thing and it's got the handle on the back and you push
Yeah,
them around the
yeah.
neighborhood. I used
Yep.
to push her around in that. We would take the dog for long walks. But it was a lot of, just playing around and just being goofy and just, I mean, actually, to be honest, that sort of helped me get over, the divorce I was going through at the time because it was like when I was with her, the focus was completely on her. So I
Hmm.
could be goofy and, act like a jackass and just make little stupid, silly jokes because she would eat them up and it would just make me forget how awful everything else was. So, once I realized that, I didn't have to overthink it, it was just like, hey, just be present, make as much of the moment as you can. Everything else just sort of fell into place after that.
Yeah, that's you saying with just being goofy and stuff like that. I think that was one of the best things for me too, is you can really be goofy without any judgment or anything
Mhm.
like that, or somebody telling you like stop being such a kid, like help me with this, help me with the dishes or whatever, whatever the case was. Like you can just literally be dumb and roll around on the ground and make silly jokes and do all this stuff. And it's like in your own space. But the good thing about that is your kid sees you for who you truly are. And then, like you said, it kind of made you forget and you were like happy in that moment. Because you're with your kid and you're just you're just having fun. Your kid kind of sees you in that way too, and it's important for your kid to see you happy, and especially after a situation like that, after a divorce, to see you happy and just in this positive environment, I think helps not only you but also her get over it in those moments. I know that's what helped me. I mean, I know you said your daughter was like a year and a half, but I mean, man, these kids absorb and see a lot more
Oh yeah.
than what we think. We think, oh, they're too young, they won't understand. But they actually can put together a lot of stuff in their little brain.
Oh yeah.
They may not be able to verbalize it the way you and I talk, but they put things together in their mind and they kind of see it and they're like, oh, okay, I see what's going on. So for them to see you happy is, I mean, is awesome, and that kind of that it's like a domino effect. They're able to enjoy that moment too, and really, really just enjoy the moment for what it is. And I think that's like the best thing. Um, Now, just going back a little bit, like with Single Dad Reboot, I want to like, I guess in the transition of the divorce and you being a single dad, like what was it that really inspired you to kind of start that Single Dad Reboot and to start like wanting to share that message for other dads who are just going through that process?
Yeah, I think for me, 'cause my wife and I originally separated in, it was like September, October of 2009.
Hmm.
So at that time, I mean, social media wasn't really too big. I don't think Instagram was around. Facebook was there.
Hmm.
I think if Twitter was, it was just barely getting started. So it wasn't like you could just log on to social media and just, find, somebody that had gone through what you had gone through. It was pretty much, you'd have to go to some kind of support group, or if you could
Hmm.
find one, or, if you knew somebody or you had friends that knew somebody that had gone through divorce, like that was really the only way you could, I guess, sort of figure out what was going on. So for me, like as I was going through things, I just kept thinking, man, I wish there was somebody who could relate to me. I mean,
Hmm.
now I don't say that to disrespect, like, my parents and my friends and my family that were there for me because they were great. But on the one hand, they couldn't fully relate to what I was going through because they hadn't gone through it. So sometimes it was hard to be vulnerable enough to share what I was actually feeling, because I mean the feelings didn't even really make sense to me, because it was like,
Hmm.
super high highs one day and then the next day it'd be like rock bottom, and it would like just go back and forth every day. And I would try and explain that and nobody could understand it. So as I was going through it, I just kept thinking, man, I wish there was somebody I could talk to or some kind of group of people that I could find to relate to, that we could talk about this. So I thought, well, I can't find one and I like to write. So, maybe I'll start a blog or something. So I sort of half-heartedly started a couple blogs over the years. And I, would make a post or two and then it would just kind of fall by the wayside.
Yeah.
And I think right around 2013, 2014, I actually found like a single parent group through meetup.com. And just getting to meet those folks and seeing that they went through the same stuff that I did, and they even had other challenges that I never would have thought about, and then me and having my own unique experience, it just sort of solidified to me that there should be more of us reaching out to try and help others, especially men, because I mean, as men, we don't generally ask for help. We just kind of suffer in silence, which is a terrible thing to do, but it's kind of
Hmm.
the way we were raised. So
Right.
there's not really much you can do about it. You just kind of got to break the chain. But so I think I got to it around 2019. I was like, all right, enough's enough. Instagram is popping. I'm just gonna start posting the stuff that me and my daughter do. So I just
Hmm.
started doing that. And I got my own website as well. And I started posting a few things on there. And from there, I just kind of went with it. People would reach out to me on Instagram, or if I found other people that, reference themselves as a single dad, as long as I didn't think it was too scammy, I'd reach out and try and touch base and see, if there was anything I could do, or, if they had questions or basically anything like that. So from there, I just kind of ran with it and kept it going. I started the podcast later in 2020 to try and reach more people. Um, I mean, and since then, the podcast, and I haven't been posting on Instagram much either, but I've been writing a lot on medium.com and on the blog as well, trying to keep the message going. But that was the basic genesis for everything. Just that I feel like you need to reach out to people to kind of meet them on their own level. Because I think if you reach out first, for the people that are too scared to reach out for whatever reason, if you reach out to them first, and it makes it easier for them to open up if you open up. And I mean, I really just wanted to show people that, as horrible as divorce is and as tough as being, a single parent, co-parent is, it gets better. Everything's going to be
Hmm.
okay. You just have to be able to weather the storm and keep going.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. When with you said about reaching out or trying to look for stuff that and there really wasn't anything that offered that kind of support that you were looking for. I remember that like for myself as well. And that's how I stumbled upon like the group I'm in, the Orlando Dads group. Um, because when I was like starting that single dad life, I was like looking out there and I didn't see anything really. And it was a challenge because you want somebody to talk to who's going through what you're going through, to get some kind of advice or that kind of support, or even just a vent, for where somebody just understands like your situation. Um, and I found the Orlando Dads group, and started going to it, and eventually I started to meet others, which then led me to also learning about Dad 2.0. um, led me to getting to know guys like yourself and others. And I think that helped me be more confident in myself as a single dad and everything that I was going through. And just knowing now, like, all right, like you said, it's gonna suck, but you got to get through it. There's really no reason to just dwell on it and or be sad about what you're going through or how your daughter's feeling and all of that. You need to take action, and that's where I needed to like dig deep and find myself, and just figure out who I was first to really know what person I need to be for my daughter and how I can show up every day for my daughter. And I mean, it was a struggle, but thankfully I found those little like avenues where I can meet other dads and all of that. But then led me to starting Dad Style 99 because I was like, I struggled to find something, and there's not a whole lot of dads. I mean, there's dads out there talking about it. You can find them if you really look, but it's not as easy as it would be for like a mom trying to find something. I mean, moms have stuff everywhere. There's
Yeah,
all kinds
they
of
do.
advice and tips, and they're dominating right now, so big kudos to them for providing that kind of support because it's needed for any human being. But for a dad trying to get some advice or go through any of this stuff alone, it sucks, so to find that support is needed. So stuff that you're doing and me starting Dash Down 99, even Soy Super Papa who was on there. um there's so many others. I mean, so many others who's been doing stuff, and big shout out to James too. Who's
Yeah,
man, James, missed that dude, really do. But
yeah.
big shout out to him. He was also a big advocate in the fatherhood community, and tons of others. But if it wasn't for us, providing that door to the next one, it's hard to really find it. So we have to like really just be loud about this and just let everyone know, like, hey, support is out there. We got your back, regardless of what level your situation is, whether you're starting, whether you're like in the middle of it, whatever it is. I think having these platforms, social media, podcasts, blogs, or just meet up, conversations, phoning a
Hmm.
friend. I mean, all of that is like so important. And something else you said that really caught my attention too was how society has made us to be, where we're these macho men. We don't cry. We just work and provide for the household, and that's it. Like it's more than that. I mean, we're human too. We cry. I've shed some tears too, in my single dad
Same,
days. It
same.
was rough, it was hard, and people need to feel comfortable and vulnerable to like share those feelings and those experiences. Because even though when they're sharing it, they're sharing it to kind of get support, but at the same time because they're being vulnerable, they're providing that support for somebody else, and that
Hmm.
and almost that like that green light to like, hey, you're good, you can talk to me, you can go ahead and just let it all out. And I think that's real important, man, in today's world. Like, we just got to talk to each other. And you and I know we text, on and off, like, but like we kind of hold each other accountable. We talk about like
Yeah,
starting the podcast and doing this and doing that, and like we're like a big support system. So, um, other dads who are out there listening to this now or later, whatever it is. I mean, you can phone a friend. I mean, you have two right here on the screen.
yeah.
And there's others on social media. I mean, whatever it is, like, there's somebody out there who you can talk to, regardless of what your situation is. Um, Now, how was your co-parenting? Like, how did that start out? I mean, as I imagine, like many co-parenting situations, is kind of rough.
Yeah, it was
But
rocky.
but how was yours like when it started out?
So I think probably for the first, man, maybe 4 or 5 months after my ex and I split, um, it was pretty much just 100% custody for me. She didn't work. Prior to that, she was a stay-at-home mom, and I think she worked a little bit on the weekends and stuff. So we just continued with that role where, if it was a working hour, Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, once I got home, 5:30, 6 o'clock, then I was, picking up our daughter, and then I was taking her, every evening, and then I had her every weekend. So, I mean, which was great. I totally enjoyed the time. So It was awesome. But when we first decided to do custody, which was a little heartbreaking because, you'd spend all that time with your kid and all of a sudden you're like, oh, now it's going to get taken away. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's coming on the horizon, but you're just not ready for it when you find out. So we first started out and it was really crazy. It was like we would just rotate every other day and then switch weekends. And I hated that because I felt like, even with a daughter only being, 1.5, 2 years old. Oh, excuse me, I got a cough.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. Even with
You
the kid
good?
only being 1.5, 2 years old, um, I felt like she needed more consistency. So we did that for a couple of years, and then we went to week on and week off, which I think has been way better. And
Mm-hmm.
I think, daughter definitely at this age appreciates it more because I mean she knows where she's going to be. She doesn't have to worry about what's going on, and being consistent and things like that. But I mean, in general, the ex-wife and I were pretty cordial with each other in terms of shifting custody back and forth and sharing and stuff like that. Because we didn't actually have a physical custody agreement in place until our divorce was official in 2012. But by then we'd already been, switching custody back and forth as it was. So everything was kind of already, in line and in place. So it wasn't too difficult. Um, but yeah, it was just, yeah, I mean, the first time my ex-wife was like, hey, I want to take, our daughter this weekend. I was just kind of like, oh, are you serious? And then she was like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
plus two, like we're gonna have to start, rotating days and stuff. And I was like, damn, like it really like, sunk me. But I was like, it wasn't like my ex-wife was a danger to our daughter. And I mean, she's been a great mom to her. So it's like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna try and, limit her time or keep the kid from her. Like she's entitled to it and the kid needs it as well. So it wasn't that big of a deal for me from that standpoint. It was just more of a personal thing and feeling some type of way about it.
Yeah. I mean, kind of similar as well. The co-parenting was, I think, a struggle, but you said a word that kind of described how it was. It was kind of inconsistent at first, very inconsistent, and both of us worked retail jobs, so that schedule is already like your days are never the same. You work weekends, so we were just trying to communicate on like with our schedules, like, okay, you can get her here, I can get her there, I can pick her up here. It was like, one day, maybe, and then 2 days on a row, and then I won't see her for like 3 days, and then maybe I'll have her for one day. It was just
Yeah.
like all over the place. It was crazy. And but um after we went through like our parenting plan and everything, we discussed that the week on and week off is something that we can try to do. And I agree, it's been so much better having it that way, because it's just more consistent. There's a schedule, and I know exactly when I'm going to have her. Like in a year from now, I can plan something if I want to. um but also the nice thing is now we can kind of communicate if there's anything that we have coming up where
Mhm.
will require, like, okay, I can have her for these 2 weeks because I have something uh a trip out of town I have to do for work or something like that, and it falls on my week, but I'll keep her these 2 weeks and you'll keep her the following 2 weeks. That way it kind of balances out.
Mhm.
um but yeah, the co-parenting journey at first it was a major struggle. And I mean, I feel like the communication was off. I mean, there was a lot of debating back and forth, maybe even some arguments here and there, and just really trying to more for, like, just having our time, but also
Mhm.
having our time with the child as well. I think was rough. And I mean, it was a lot of back and forth. And sometimes my daughter may have heard or kind of
Mhm.
seen the arguments, and I that sucked, for her to see that or just to be there to witness it or something like that. But so being consistent now has been so much better. And the co-parenting journey at the moment, I mean, it's not perfect, but it's so much better than what it was, years ago. Um, and especially for my daughter, I think that's the most important thing is we have to do this for the kids, because
Mhm.
it's not their fault the divorce happened, so it makes no sense to put them in the middle of it, and to have them feel some kind of like sadness or hurt because of what mommy and daddy are going through. That was between them. It wasn't even the child's fault or anything like that. So to have some kind of cordial, like, relationship and respectful relationship, I think is important to have, because man, I've seen some situations where there's two co-parents fighting and just, I mean, are completely like ignoring the fact that the child is standing right there next to them. And
Yeah.
I mean, that's not a real good sight for anybody to see, but it's an even worse sight for the child to see and to be right in the middle of.
Mhm.
And I mean, it's just sad to see those. So um I mean, it just benefits any co-parenting relationship just to be as respectful as possible. You don't have to like each other. You don't have to be friends.
Mhm.
You just have to come together as a team to be parents for the child. And I think that is what gets missed a lot of the times
Mhm.
in some of these relationships because they're they have all this resentment and anger inside of them for whatever the reason is, whether it was, you know, however the relationship fell apart, or some sort of jealousy, and all they want to do is like have revenge, and
Yeah.
it doesn't end well, especially for the child. And then not only that, what is the child learning? What is the
Right.
child learning from that? How a relationship should be. I mean, imagine that child grows up to then get into a relationship, maybe even an abusive relationship, and think like, okay, well, this is how mom and dad did it, this is normal, I guess, because this is how I grew up. Um, and then as parents at that point, you're like, I don't want you being in that relationship, that's not, that's not healthy. But and
Mhm.
then it's like, okay, you got to look at yourself in the mirror. I mean, this is what you exemplified to this child growing up.
Right.
And it sucks, for all these kids to go through that, but then to be in that kind of relationship as they grow older, because that's what they know, that's what they've been around. To them, that's the norm. So yeah, it's just sad to see it. So to have a respectful relationship, I mean, such as you're having, thankfully I'm having, everything is
Mhm.
turning out pretty good. And I know as the child gets older, well, I hope things get better. I mean, you're a little bit further along than I am. So how is it in 5 years
I
from
mean,
now? Is it still
it's
good?
a different set of challenges. It's still,
Yeah.
you're still a dad, but they get a little older and a little more opinionated and want to show a little more independence. So you kind of gotta
Hmm.
rein them back in a little bit.
Yeah.
But
Oh
I did want
man.
to, you brought up a couple good points though about the custody shifting for anybody that comes across this, it's new to it.
Hmm.
In terms of, you saying that, you might be out of town for an extra week and miss time with your kids. So your daughter or your ex-wife had to take her and, vice versa. Or even if you ask for extra time or your ex-wife does, that stuff usually tends to work itself out. It's
Hmm.
not, a matter of fairness. Over the course of many, many years, as you guys are co-parenting, that stuff's it's just gonna work itself out. Like, so you don't have to feel like you're getting, cheated or gypped out of time or anything like that. And then the other point too, like when you first start out and you're kind of, I guess, bashing heads with your wife or your ex-wife and, trying to figure everything out. That's really not about the kid. It's just about, how your ex-spouse feels about you and how things
Hmm.
ended and, what did or didn't happen. And that's where all that comes from. So just try and keep that in
Yeah.
mind as you move through things. Like it's not about the kid. It's about, however they, take things as being mistreated, stuff like that.
Yeah. Now, so once you've kind of established some sort of co-parenting normalcy, um, and you're going through your things as a single dad and try to figure things out, um, how do you then, or how did you come to a point where you tried to balance like life in general? So life with, okay, I'm a dad now this week, and now it's just me. Then you got work, and then whatever your own personal hobbies are. Like, how do you balance that out over the course of, like, let's say, when you have her versus when you don't have her?
I think the biggest thing for me was it was a shock to actually have free time again to do whatever I wanted to do. And it took a few months, maybe even a year to realize that I'm sitting on 50% of my time where I can be using it more productively than just sitting around, watching
Hmm.
TV or watching movies or doing nothing, just vegging out. So, you know, once once I got that thought through my head that, you've got all this extra time to do whatever you wanted to do. It was kind of like, well, it's time to get in shape. It's time to, do some more reading, do some more learning, maybe do some traveling, just live my life really. And, when I had my daughter, it was, all about her as it should be. But,
Hmm.
I tried to, as I developed new hobbies and things like that, I would, if I thought it was something she'd be interested in, I'd get her involved. So one of our things has always been traveling, since she was geez, I guess 3 or 4. I think she was probably 3 when I took her on her first trip by myself. Because I had family like in Chicago at the time, so we'd always go. That's where my parents were, so we'd go a few times a year. So that just became our thing. Like she was like my travel buddy, and whenever I was like, hey, kind of feeling like we should get out of town for a few days this weekend, what do you think? She'd always say, yeah, let's go. And even to this day, we still do it. So just tried to make, the parenting part as much fun as I could. And then also
Hmm.
realize that, again, you've got half of your life now that's free. So don't waste it because you only really get one opportunity at it. So that means that, even though divorce might be something you're struggling with now, it doesn't mean that you have to put love off forever. There's a possibility for it. You just have to make sure you keep the balance going.
Yeah, I mean, similarly as well. I mean, when I was by myself for the first time with no kid, I was like, kind of like just looking at the walls for a second, like,
It's
what
so
do I
quiet, isn't it?
yeah,
You're
it's like,
like,
what
what's
do I
going on here?
do? It's like, man, like I'm up, I had breakfast. What's next, you know?
You're like, oh, it's only
Um,
10 a.m. Damn it.
yeah, so it was definitely an adjustment. Um, but I think I got to a point where it was kind of like I went through stages. It was like I don't know what to do when I'm by myself to like when my daughter's with me, now realizing like, oh crap, like I need food for her in the house and I need
Yeah.
this and I need that and I need to do this. And then I was like, okay, maybe I should do this on the time that I don't have her. And then trying to do all of that. But then I also wanted like do other things too, like for myself. So it was just like it went through a mix of like really not planning very well.
Yeah.
Like knowing what I have to do to make sure the house is good for when my daughter comes, but and then trying to like figure out, okay, how do I get some of that stuff I want to do for myself too in there? So it was a mess for a little bit. I must admit, but and then it got to a point where now I have like a routine. My daughter comes with
Mhm.
me on Monday. So it's like Sunday, I'll go ahead and, okay, do I got everything I need for her school lunches and, her clothes are washed and all that stuff. Now that she's older, she like kind of partakes in some of like, I have her doing the clothes. It's like, hey,
Mhm.
get your clothes and, teaching her all those things now, which actually helps buy more time for myself when I'm by myself.
Mhm.
And then also, gives her some of that responsibility so she's learning like okay I got to do all of this and I got to do all that, clean your room, do this. And sometimes she wants to cook and I got to say I don't fight it. Like you want to cook, go ahead. Like
Yeah.
she might mess it up but it's okay.
Yeah.
um I've gone through the different stages where it was like I didn't know what to do to now I know what to do, but I didn't know when to do it. And it was like a mess and mixing with other priorities to now like having somewhat of a decent plan in place. And then of course having the support of family too also helps out too. Um, but yeah, it was it was quite a mess, I gotta say. Um, what is like Man, what would you say? What advice would you give to like to those dads who are starting to like go through who are going through that process? Like the divorce just became the decision maker and you have a kid, like I mean, I remember that moment, like going through that. It's like, how does this look like after this? Like I had no clue, no clue. I was sort of scared a little bit, but also scared if I decided to stay. It was like all these mixed emotions going on, and I'm like, am I making the right decision? Like, what do you tell to a dad like who's having that question in their mind? Like, what do I do?
Yeah, I think the first thing just to remember is that everything is going to be okay. I mean, there is going to be an adjustment period. It's different for everybody. Some people move quick, some people move slower, but everything's going to be okay. You will fall into a good routine. Whatever drama you have with your ex, I mean, well, I probably can't say that it will level out because I know some people have been battling this stuff for years,
Hmm.
but you should be able to get to a point to where it's pretty easy to communicate, and it's not too volatile. But just, I mean, just the way to think about it is that just remember it's going to be rough at first. And that's, when you need to lean on your people, whether or not it's, other single parents or family or friends. I mean, everybody's going to understand that you're going through a tough time. So if you call, they're going to pick up the phone. If you say,
Hmm.
hey, let's get together, I'm, struggling to be alone right now, they're going to say yes because they want to help you out. You know, they love you and they care for you. So I think like just getting locked in that everything's going to be okay. And then just sort of figuring out how you're going to start this. Like, what kind of dad do you want to be? And outside of that, what do you want for yourself? Um, Try and keep it as a positive frame thing to where you're thinking about growth rather than, oh my God, this is happening to me, what I'm going to do. Just, you know, whatever happens, you're going to figure it out. I mean, at this point in your life, you've dealt with every tough situation you've come across and you've turned out
Mm-hmm.
just fine. I mean, you say the same for everybody. So
Yeah.
you're going to make it through this too, but you just kind of got to take it one day at a time because the ground's not so steady. So you have to, you know, slowly take a step forward each day and the clouds will lift and it'll get easier. But just, you know, take it slow and don't be too difficult on yourself. Try and be as respectful as you can to the co-parent, you know, no matter what side you're on, whether or not you're the angry one or she's the angry
Mm-hmm.
one, or even if you're both angry. Between that and I think the biggest thing is don't use the kid as a bargaining tool for, you know, whatever you're going through.
Yep.
You know, don't say, well, if you don't do this, you're not going to get the kid. Like, don't do that. Like, if the other partner's good for the kid and they're going to do their duty as a parent, then, you know, be fair to them.
Yeah, somebody actually just mentioned that in the Facebook comments how other parents or other co-parents will kind of use the child as a weapon.
Yeah.
Um, and we talked about that. How I mean, I, no, don't do that.
Yeah,
Don't do that.
it's horrible. I mean, there shouldn't be too much of that going on when you have a custody agreement in place. But I mean, again, that's one of those things where the person's just trying to get back at you. You have to
Mhm.
recognize what it is for what it is, and try not to put too much on it. Hopefully, it doesn't come to a point to where you have to get, you know, legal parties involved. But
Right.
um, you know, just try and be as peaceful as you possibly can. And like you said, you don't have to be best friends. You just have to be able to be cordial with each other and communicate what's going on with the kid. That's really all you have to do at the beginning. You don't need to, you know, build this super crazy relationship or turn your life into some crazy sitcom where, you know, the ex-husband's living in the house with a new family and the kids are all around and everybody's just so happy and all that. Like, you don't have to do all that. Just, you know, take it slow. Don't go too fast.
Yeah, definitely take your time because it is, I mean, like you said earlier, it's a big transition from being in a relationship, having a family in one home, now being separated, trying to co-parent and having your kid, half the time or whatever the case is. Um, I mean, it's a big adjustment. And I mean, I would tell dads to like you said, like just be patient, really focus on yourself and what you need to do as a parent,
Mhm.
how you look like as a father. That's the most important thing, just to because now the child, when she's with you, only sees you 100% of the time.
Mhm.
The eyes are on you all the time. So making sure that you're good, you know, practice self-care too. Like when you don't have your child, like take care of yourself, whatever that may look like. I mean, it could be going getting pampered or
Yeah.
shaving before you pick her up or exercising, eating good, whatever it is, because when your child is with you, it's go time,
Yeah.
and you may not have that that much free time to do self-care, although try your best to do it. But we know as parents, when the child is there, the child is gets all the energy, gets all the
Yeah.
attention. That's the biggest priority, making sure that they're fed, they're bathed, they're in school, they have all of that. So as a parent, you just kind of sacrifice those moments for yourself to give to them. But not saying it's a good thing when your child is not with you, but that's an opportunity for you to really focus on yourself like 100% of the time, because now there's no eyes on you and it's just you. Just focus on yourself and grow. It's an opportunity to grow, to learn from past opportunities, and and just to be there. So when you give yourself 100%, so that you can give your child 100% when she's with you. And I think that's like one of the biggest things. I think just take care of yourself so you can take care of your family.
Yeah, it's much easier to, you know, give out yourself if you're coming from a full cup. You know, it's easier to
Hmm.
pour out of it. So yeah, definitely that's super important. And I mean it's not to you know, belittle depression because I've dealt with it myself, but little things like grooming yourself every day, keeping your
Hmm.
beard trimmed, showering, bathing properly, like that
Hmm.
the little things like that can help, fight off a little bit of a depression, not like
Yeah.
a moderate or heavy amount, but the little things
Right.
like that are kind of what keep you going. And also, like you said, exercising and trying to eat well too. Like I don't
Hmm.
think people realize how different you feel when you eat a bunch of, highly processed food versus,
Hmm.
healthier stuff. Like it actually does affect like your outlook and how you feel. So it's definitely something to keep in
Yeah.
mind.
Yeah, definitely. And also like, I mean, get out too. You're like, I mean, some people have a hard time getting out. And I'm not saying necessarily you need to move on in a relationship, but you need to just get out. I mean, meet people.
Be
It can even
social.
be other guys or go to a bar, just start having conversations with people. I mean, go do some kind of fun activity or some kind of hobby or something like that. Like I feel like there's different ways and different things you can do to like get out. I mean, just getting out of the house in general, even if it's for going for a walk around the block, I think really helps your overall like mood and just being outside, especially if you live somewhere tropical like Florida, where you could just
Yeah.
kind of get out and look
Right.
at the blue skies and green trees, palm trees, and listen to the birds
Yeah.
chirp. Like, I mean, those little things, I mean, it sounds silly, but I mean, it actually makes like a big difference. And now, I mean, my young self would hear me talking now and be like, "What's wrong with this guy? Like birds chirping, going for a walk." But I mean,
Right.
today I would kill for that. Just going outside and
Yeah.
just hanging out, sitting out on the porch with coffee. I mean, that's amazing right now. So,
Yeah,
um,
exactly.
yeah. So that would be yeah, that's amazing. So yeah, get out, have some fun, and just enjoy yourself and take those opportunities for yourself to take care of yourself. In general.
Yeah. I mean,
I
there's no magic bullets. Like there's not one specific thing you can do to make everything okay, but it's the little
hmm
things that add up. So if
yeah.
you're grooming yourself properly and then it's going to make you feel better. You're like, oh, you know what? I feel pretty good. I think I'm going to go out today. So maybe go for a walk or, go
Yeah.
people watch somewhere at a, restaurant or something like that. But
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, social life is super important. And at the beginning, you're not going to feel like it. Like you're going to have
Right.
your child's gone and you're going to be wiped, like
Yeah.
emotionally, just
Yep.
drained
Oh,
because
yeah.
you just spent a week happy because your kid was there, but then also depending on the age of your kid and how difficult they might be
Mhm.
for you dealing with on your own, um, there's gonna be a lot of highs and lows, and then they're gonna be gone, and then you're gonna be like, okay, cool, I got a break, but then you're like, well, damn, the kid's also not here too. What am I gonna do?
Right.
So it's like just keep it together, and definitely try and be more social, and
Mhm.
every little step helps, and if you can force yourself to do it, do it. You definitely won't regret it. But I mean, life goes
Yeah.
on. It's not
Sure
always going to
does.
be this way. If you feel bad, you're not always going to feel bad. Eventually, you're going to feel better.
Yep. Uh, so I know I'm also recording this on podcast, but somebody just said on the live feed right now on Facebook that we have the same beard and we can be family.
Yeah, I was going to say
So
you got a little salt and pepper going on, man.
right, yeah. So I mean, we already know bald is beautiful. So
Yes, we do.
yeah,
Always.
yeah. Oh man. All right. So what would you say? A memorable moment or a milestone in your single dad journey, like where you were like, I got this, like I'm gonna be all right. Was there a moment in time, whether it was some kind of interaction with your daughter or just something you did on your own where you just saw and they're like, you know what, I'm gonna be all right.
Yeah, there's one that I always point to, and my daughter doesn't remember. She's too young. She was, I think, maybe 3 or 4, and my best friend and his wife and their at the time 3 kids were going to Disney World, and they were like, "Look, we got this
Mm-hmm.
big timeshare. We've got
Mm-hmm.
extra room. If you and my daughter Hayden, if you and Hayden want to come, you're welcome to join us." And like, it was my best friend, so my daughter spent a lot of time playing with his kids, and he helped me, him and his wife helped me get through the divorce when I was going through it. So I was
Mm-hmm.
like, oh yeah, we're absolutely going to go. So it was a solo trip, just me and her flying down to Orlando. So, and I think there was a connecting flight somewhere. It might have been Atlanta, I think. So it was either there or South Carolina, I can't remember. So we were going, and like we got to the airport and everything was cool, and we sat down on the plane and we took off and we landed in our connecting place and we got off, and my daughter was like, oh, I had an accident. And I was like, oh, did it just happen? And she was like, no, like I sat through this like 2.5 hour flight with, just wet pants, like the diaper leaked through. And it's like, oh, why didn't you tell me? You should have said something.
Oh
I
wow.
would have changed it.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually had everything ready. I had a change of
Oh.
clothes. I had the wipes. I had everything good to go. I cleaned off the seat as we were exiting the plane. We got in. And I think because we still had a few more hours, I might have just tossed the clothes that she peed through. But
Yeah,
we got to Orlando and I was telling my friend, and I was like, dude, I think I can do this. Like I had the foresight to pack everything ahead of time that I knew I was gonna need. I had the snacks, I had the change of clothes. I mean, we were ready to go and we ended up having a blast, but it was that moment where I was like, dude, I just did like, 5 hours worth of flying, 2 hour layover, and I made it. And I had everything that I needed. Everything's gonna be okay. I was like, this isn't
that's
gonna be so
awesome.
bad. That was the day where I was like, dude, this is it. I'm gonna make it. Everything's gonna be great.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, congrats on that. Because I know, I mean, me personally, I mean, there may be dads who got it down packed, but trying to pack a bag to be
Yeah.
safe for everything and make sure all corners are covered. I mean, even though I thought I always had everything, I always missed something. It was
Yeah.
always like, oh, you look in the bag, it's like, oh my God, I need this right now of all days. And just when you think you don't need something, that's when the thing happens. It's like, are you serious?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, that's a cool story. I mean, that's a huge success right there. To be able to overcome something like that is pretty big. Um, man, for me, um, I think I mean, I have, I guess, two moments. I guess two different perspectives. One was, of course, doing my daughter's hair. Going back to that, I would just always just brush it out. Really, I mean, I wouldn't really do anything fancy. I was just trying to get the brush down perfect, right?
Yeah.
um, and I decided to go at doing a braid and my daughter's hair is super long, so it was tough to do. And I was like, how do you do this? Like, is it easier when it's dry? Do you have to wet it? Like, I was trying to figure it out. I had water bottles and brushes and combs. I had all this stuff, and I'm like trying to figure it out. And thankfully, she was patient. She had the tablet in front of her, and I was just going and going and going. And then finally, after two or three attempts, I finally feel like I got it. Then I looked at my daughter. I was like, okay, what do you think now? Does it look good? She's like, yeah, yeah, it looks good. It looks good. She was young. I was like, okay, as long as she's happy, we're good. And then somebody complimented her long hair while we were out, and they said, oh wow, look at that braid. Like that braid looks really good. And I was like,
Like, I did that. That
that's
was
it's
me.
like I did that. Yeah. I was like, oh my gosh. Like I was like somebody complimented the braid. Oh man, that's all I needed. I was good. I was like, okay, you know what? It's gonna be all right. I think I can go ahead and do her hair from now on. Now at 11, she kind of does it
Yeah.
all herself.
Yeah.
But I did do her hair the other day. She was like she wasn't feeling well and she had to wash her hair. And I just kind of went in there and I was like, you know what? I got it. She's like, you gonna do it? I was like, yeah, yeah. I was like, I used to do this a long time ago, so we're good.
Yeah.
It kind of brought back like some good memories, like just doing her hair. Even though, man, it was some long nights just trying to blow dry it after she washed
Yeah.
it and brush it out. Oh man, it was a pain. Um, and then a second one I had, she was a bit older. She was in elementary, or she's in elementary now, but she was in fourth grade, and man, it took a lot inside of me to not, be a typical dad. But she gets in the car and she's like, Daddy, I gotta tell you something. I was like, okay, what happened? Is everything okay? She's like, yeah. She's like, well, please don't be mad. I was like, oh my God. So when she says that, I'm already trying to
Yeah.
prep
That's not a good
myself.
way to
Like,
start a
yeah.
conversation.
I was
You're
like,
like,
oh my
oh
God. I'm
man.
trying to prep myself. And I'm like, oh my God, please, like, just don't lose it here. Whatever it is, just try to be understanding. And she's like, so I got a boyfriend. I was
Oh
like,
man.
I was like, oh, okay. Is it a boyfriend or is it a friend that's a boy? She's like, well, he likes me and I like him too. I was like, oh man. So it took everything inside of me to just, not be the typical dad, like you're not dating until you're like 45 or
Yeah.
anything like that. Um, so I just really had to like, just I just listened and asked her about the boy and why does she like the boy and all of that stuff, just to kind of get kind of some more information, for my
Yeah. Of
behalf,
course.
but also just really steer her in the right direction and just help her understand, like, whatever it is that she's feeling and all of that. And then this was the moment that I was like, okay, I did good. She turns to me, she's like, Daddy, I can't believe you're not mad. I was like, no, why would I be mad? She's like, I don't know. I just thought you would be like really mad. She's like, but I was able to talk to you,
Mhm.
And I was like, in that moment, I was like, Oh man, okay. So I was like, I'm glad I prepped myself. I'm glad I didn't flip. I'm glad I didn't just go like off the wall or anything like that. I just really just stopped and just listened and just really just talked to her about it. So that was another moment for me that was like, okay, I think I'm gonna be all right, you know?
You're lucky,
Oh
man. My
man.
daughter's had a few boyfriends. She doesn't tell me about them. I usually hear from her mom. I think it's the whole like father-daughter dynamic. I think there was once in elementary school she had a boyfriend and she told me about him. But then she always tells me like, "Oh, they're so annoying. Like they're always reaching out to me. They always want to talk." And I'm just like, "Just leave me alone. Like I don't want to talk." And I think the summer before, was it eighth grade? Maybe I think it was before ninth grade. She had a boyfriend and she broke up with him before summer because she didn't want him taking up all of her summertime.
What?
And I was like, "Are you serious right now? You really just did that?" And she was like, "Yep." She's like, "This is my summer. I want to have fun. I don't want him chasing me around." And I was like, "That's cold." I was
Oh
like,
my
"That is
gosh, that's
cold."
so funny.
But yeah, the
That's
most recent
crazy.
boyfriend she had being high school now, yeah, I didn't find out until a few months after, and her mom told me, and I was just like, "Oh, okay, well, at least somebody's telling me." So I think I think the older
Yeah.
they get, they keep that more close to the vest with the dads, but you might be lucky. Who knows?
Well, we'll see. I don't know. I think right now the boy's still around, so I mean that's pretty
Oh,
good. And she's in fifth grade now, so um, yeah, he seems to be a good guy. I had a little problem with him in the beginning, but
yeah.
I think he got the message. So he's been pretty good. So, and I try to have to tell my daughter too, like, hey, you can't let nobody like do these things and do that. Like, you got to defend yourself. You got to let people know what's up, like right there, right then and there. Because if not, they're gonna walk all over you, and you can't do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
yeah. So man, so I'm gonna put you a little bit on the spot.
All right.
This is where we both are holding each other accountable.
All
What
right.
are we gonna look up to? What's in the future for Single Dad Reboot?
Oh man, so right now, I've been like when I really got into everything, like what I really wanted to do was write. Like I've always loved writing,
Okay.
had a passion for it. That was
Mm-hmm.
why I started out with blogs. I got away from that, did the podcast for a little while. But in the last year and a half, I've gotten back into writing. Now I'm writing on medium.com under my regular name, Craig Youngkrantz, if you want to check me out.
Okay.
Um, I've got a weekly newsletter that I send out through email to anybody that follows. I've got my website, singledadreboot.com. There's a if you want to get on the email list, go there and sign up. Just send out a weekly email with, tips on divorce recovery, co-parenting, single parenting, putting your life back together and things like that. I'm going to keep pushing that through. I'm gonna keep writing. Just I've been on X, formerly Twitter, a lot too, trying to spread the word. Like I've been
Mm-hmm.
everywhere trying to spread the word. TikTok, X,
Yeah.
Instagram. I'm just gonna keep doing my thing. Keep trying to put out as much helpful content as I can. I'm hoping to pick my podcast back up this year, so we'll see how that goes. And I think eventually, like I'd like to get to a point to where I'm just able to coach people that are struggling with it, just to be able to help as much as I can. Like I'm super passionate about just showing people that life's going to be okay and you can have a better life than you thought was possible, once you're at your complete rock bottom.
Yeah, I think that's extremely important. I mean, I know we talked about us dads trying to be loud and just really share that voice, through our experiences, to help to support them, wherever they may be. And I think I mean, I think the coaching thing, man, I think you would kill that definitely. You've gone through stuff, you've learned from a lot through your experiences. And I think, at any capacity that you can really help a dad out is special. And I think, we need more people like you, like myself, like
Yeah.
Sergio and
The more the
James,
merrier
and
for sure. Exactly.
yeah, I mean, just everybody. I mean, everybody has to get out there. I mean, and some people may not be comfortable with, doing a podcast, because of for whatever reason, you don't like your
Right.
voice. I don't like my voice, and I'm here doing this right now. um, and then I'm on camera at the same time too. So it's
Yeah.
like, man, double whammy right now. But I think, if you want to, if you can write, some people are good with their words, get that down. Um, or sometimes they just do video content without having their voice on there or even their face. I mean,
Yeah.
whatever it is you can do, share it. Um, if you're not comfortable to do any of that stuff and rather not, then share someone else's content, any useful tips, information, that you find through social media, internet, whatever it is. I mean, share it to a group. You know, if you're a part of a group, a dad's group, a men's group, whatever it is, a friend. I mean, just share it. Let them know that there is some kind of support out there, wherever you look. So you just got to look. We're there. I promise you, we're there.
Yeah, if you put your message out there, people will find you. But if you don't, then they won't. So whatever
Yep,
your preferred
exactly.
medium is, get out there for sure. There's definitely people that want to hear your story.
Yep. Man, thank you, thank you, thank you once again for being my first guest. It's official. It's in the books.
Yeah, I'm honored, man. Thank you for having me.
Yeah,
It's a pleasure to be here.
I
It's good to see
appreciate it,
what you're doing,
man.
man, for sure. Since we go, like I said, you're one of my day ones, so it's good to see the growth.
Yeah, we go back. We go back. And then everybody who's been interacting on Facebook, I appreciate it. Lots of people showing love on there. They love what we're doing, the support. There's not a lot of support out there for dads, and they love what we're doing here. So, um, I mean, there it goes. I mean, you see it right there. They know it's there's not a lot out there, and we got to keep it going. So, thank you guys once again, for jumping on, for watching, for listening, and there's gonna be a lot more